वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की fateh. We stand here today in solidarity and unity in our thousands to mark the 32nd year of Operation Blue Star, the genocide of Sikhs in June 1984. 32 years may have passed, but the memory of the bloodshed doesn't fail those it affected. The pain, the trauma, the betrayal by the government and mistrust in justice cannot be taken away from those families that lost loved ones or witnessed the brutal attacks. And for what? Why did this happen? 1984 was the fight for basic human rights, as documented in the Anandpur Sahib resolution. What rights? Sikhs demanded the rights for oppressed minorities such as women, lower castes, and impoverished communities. They asked for state autonomy, guarantees of constitutional rights, and equality of citizens regardless of their caste, religion, or gender. The government response was to resist these basic rights, and so the Sikhs planned to protest peacefully, as you would expect in a democracy, so that they could lobby change. Through peaceful protests, the government employed media to project Sikhs as anti-national and secessionist, and used this as a pretense for military operation. On the 1st of June 1984, the Indian government launched Operation Blue Star, a full-scale assault on Gurdwaras in Punjab with a focus on Sri Harmandir Sahib. The Indian army deployed tear gas, army tanks, and up to 150,000 troops. And according to the Joint Intelligence Committee, 100,000 Sikh youth were taken into custody within the first 4 to 6 weeks of the military operation, and many of them were never seen or heard from ever again. On June 4th, 1984, the army assault on Sri Harmandir Sahib continued unabated for more than 48 hours. Survivors recall seeing piles of dead women and children on the ground. 8 tanks entered Sri Harmandir Sahib on the morning of 6th of June, 1984. And officers called out to those alive, saying that they would be protected. But survivors testified that those that came out in the open were shot down at sight. Anthropologist Joyce Pettigrew, who studied the killing fields of Punjab from 1992 to 1994, said this: "The army went into Darbar Sahib not to eliminate a political figure or a political movement, but to suppress the culture of a people, to attack their heart, to strike a blow at their spirit and self-confidence." The orchestration of Operation Blue Star led to the genocide of Sikhs in their thousands. So every year we gather here together to remember and honor the bravery of those who defended faith and human rights and the innocent ones who lost their lives. Genocides are described as the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular nation or ethnic group. So our purpose of why we are here is not only an individual one, but a collective one too. I've attended this rally since I was a young girl with my family, and this is one of the largest rallies in the world. I am regularly asked, why do we continue to have this rally? What have we achieved? Why don't we just move on? And as a human rights activist, I ask myself, is it right to live in this world as a passive bystander to injustice, especially that of my people? Is it right to want to forget and immerse myself in my own little world? Is it right to forget our rich history of standing up for the rights of all? Is it right to forget the principles of what being a Sikh is and wanting Sarbat da Pala, which means blessings for all mankind? I ask you, is it right to forget, to move on and feel defeated? I ask myself, is it? And for me, Jaswant Singh Kalra, my role model, a lawyer, a human rights activist, knew his plight, but he never stopped. He never stopped seeking and sharing the truth. He worked within the judicial system, and despite that, he was murdered. He inspired me to want to know the truth. He inspired me to feel my basic humanity and moral duty as a Sikh woman. So I am here with you because we have become the voice of the voiceless. We are united in our belief that all humans are entitled to basic rights and freedoms, the right to life, to liberty, to equality, a fair trial, freedom from slavery and torture, and freedom from thought and expression. So we must never forget. Our objectives of holding this rally year on year are firstly to honor the innocent lives in their thousands, the 11,000 pilgrims who never reclaimed their shoes. They went to seek a moment of solace at Harmandir Sahib, and little did they know that they walked into a brutal death. Secondly, we Sikhs have a rich history of standing up against injustice and oppression, and we must never compromise our Sikh values and traditions, and we only need to look at Guru Tegh Bahadur and some of our gurus and the history and the fights and the struggles that they fought. Thirdly, we must continue to raise awareness of the plight of Sikhs in India, whether that's through Bapu Surat Singh's campaign, Sikh political prisoners, farmer suicides, Punjab water depleting, drug issues, or other social, religious, and economic issues in Punjab. It is a real honor and privilege as a Sad Sangat that we come together, and year on year the rally grows, and so many young people are in attendance who, whilst not being around in '84, also feel that pain, for after all, isn't it about basic humanity? So I request you to join me in a 3-minute remembrance as we introduce defenders of the faith and those who stood up for human rights. Let's remember and never forget. Sad Sangat Ji, 1984 remains one of the darkest years in modern Indian history. The Committee on Human Rights openly criticized the unjust attack against innocent Sikhs, particularly when there were no allegations against them. This is what they said. The most disturbing thing about the entire operation was that a whole mass of men, women, and children were ordered to be killed merely on the suspicion that some terrorists were operating from Harmandir Sahib and other gurdwaras. This is most disturbing, as a military attack which massacred innocent people, was undertaken on mere suspicion created by statements from the police and the government themselves. This evidence from the Human Rights Committee raises serious questions of legitimacy of the attacks. How then can we forget? Furthermore, a denial of justice perpetuates marginalization of Sikhs and minority groups in India. And until there is accountability for these human rights violations, Sikhs will continue to keep the light for justice lit. Jean-Dominique, who is an activist from Haiti, he says, "You cannot kill the truth. You cannot kill justice. You cannot kill what we are fighting for." So I want to thank you, all of you, for being here, for keeping that light for justice lit. And the Federation of Sikh organizations must be applauded. For every year they put on this remembrance event, and the Gurdwara Prabandhaks, all the seva that they do. And on that note, when we're talking about truth, I want to introduce our next speaker. Phil Miller, who is a researcher, was responsible for uncovering the British involvement in the 1984 massacre. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.